Hey, what's up, y'all? This is MVP with Juxtaposed, and today we're going to talk about no snitching. Wow, this is different, yo. Like I feel like y'all don't normally see us uh in this type of environment, shall we say?
I would agree. I'd agree.
It looks very, I don't know, suave. Is that a word?
I don't know if that works here, but you know.
Okay, well let's introduce everybody.
Anyway, today we have this is our first in-person juxtaposed shoot since 2020. We still have Aaron remote, but we're working on getting him in place for one of these.
I'll
But
be out there for
Flew
sure.
in,
I don't know if you could say
flown
flew
in,
in. Flew. No, it doesn't.
Flued
Does
out.
that work? Do we still use it?
Get flued
flown
out.
out.
Do
Huh?
we still use that anymore? I don't know.
I
Flew
mean,
out.
I guess the
Flew out.
baddies
I don't
still,
know.
do it.
Okay. Well,
Get flued
anyway,
out.
we are
Them baddies.
we are definitely on all in person, so this is gonna be a whole nother little, well, not all in person, but we're MVP and I are in person.
Yeah.
Um Today we're gonna try to talk about snitching and its complicated meaning and past, and we're just gonna like dive into that a little bit because it's been kind of trending because of a lot of recent things that have happened. So the question really does come in is like, what is it? So once again, we have Aaron from Poro Finance, In Crowd Reviews, MVP.
Whoop, whoop.
My name is K Styles, and today, what is snitching? I think we got to start off from the top. What is snitching, and what does it mean for each
I feel like it's complicated, right? So we're gonna start off with what is
person?
snitching.
What is it? Yeah.
So this is NVP's view of snitching, right? Say you and your boy, right? Oh, we want to be inclusive. Say you and your boy or your girl, your home girl. Y'all get into some foolery, right? Get into some foolery, and you get caught. Now this can be by any type of authority figure, right? It could be your parents. It could be the popo, the police, the feds, the alphabet boys, right?
A lot of names.
You keep your mouth closed when they ask if you did what they think you were caught doing. It wasn't us. It wasn't me. It wasn't my homeboy or homegirl. Don't know what you're talking about, right? That's what you're supposed to do. But if you say, hey, I was like under the impression that we were just going to, go to the store, get some Skittles, and with something delicious, a calypso.
What?
It's a drink, very very tasty. But then we ended up doing something else, and it wasn't my fault. It was my homegirl or homeboy's fault. They did it. I had nothing to do with it. I actually told them we shouldn't do it. That is snitching.
Okay.
Aaron, what's your
I
views?
I am in agreement with you. I'm in agreement with you. I personally, the way view snitching, it has nothing to do with people who weren't involved in anything, telling or speaking to any body of authority or anything like that. I personally see it as those that were involved, all of the parties that were involved. If there is one person that decides to say anything to that body of authority in order to exonerate themselves from blame or from getting quote unquote in trouble, then that is my personal definition of snitching. If you're involved in something with someone, clearly it's going to be illicit, non-legal activity, or otherwise it doesn't necessarily need to be illegal activity. But if you're involved with something with someone, and then you open your mouth and pretty much say whatever you need to say to exonerate yourself from blame, and then have them taken down and be the party that was wrong, then yeah, that would put you square as a snitch.
Damn. Okay.
As a snitch. You
No,
snitching.
I
Trademark
know.
stamped.
Huh?
No, I do agree with that. I think the lines have been very blurred because I feel like when I was growing up, it was very clear. Like, okay, well, as somebody who's participating in these felonious behaviors, that if you told, then you're a snitch, and that was a thing. But then you remember seeing, like, looking back at all the, like, the old school gangsters, and those people. I mean, they were singing like canaries. I mean, they were. So it's like, it's very unclear what is the parameters, right? So, um, if somebody, for example, you guys are all together, and you see like a group of friends, like say, three of us, and let's say for some reason, oh, let's say another person. We're gonna add another person named John. The four of us, we're hanging out. We go to the grocery store, and John decides,
Hold on. You can't use my grocery store thing.
why is that yours?
Yes, you got to go somewhere else. You got to go to like a
Okay,
baseball game, or you can anywhere where you shop for food and drinks and Skittles. You can't go
this
there.
man just called an embargo on anything food related. Like, what?
You need another example. Challenge.
He even
Okay,
said if you
all
can
right.
buy
You go to
Skittles
the.
there. So it can't even
Oh,
be a
I guess.
bodega.
Okay, all right. Better yet. All right, all right. We're gonna shut it all
What
down.
you got?
So the four of us, John included, go to the bank
Mm.
while we were on the way to go out to a club. But for some reason, John decided he wanted to rob the bank. Now, John is somebody we're cool with. We don't necessarily know John. That, like, we wouldn't say John is like ride or die day one friend, right? But if the police then come and say, okay, well, all four of y'all were in the car, so y'all accessories. Do you tell on John? And there was no plan to go to the bank to rob it. We just needed cash to pay to get it. I mean, do people still pay to get into clubs? I don't know. I've been out of the loop. But
In
in the
crowd
case where
doesn't.
yeah, well, as I said, if you like, we were all in the car, we were driving, giving John a ride, and John robs a bank. If we talk to the cop now, is that snitching?
Good
John did
question.
it. I don't even know John, bro. I don't even know that dude.
Good
Who
question.
is like he just showed up. I don't know that guy.
But that could be
Is
that,
that
that could
snitching?
that's what I'm saying. That could be considered snitching.
I'm
You
gonna
knew
say that's
John
not
enough to have
snitching.
John in the car. Okay.
Ooh, come on,
I'm
Aaron.
gonna say that's not snitching. Not only do I not consider that snitching, if John doesn't speak up, he's about to get slapped out. Like seriously,
Mm,
by the whole crew. Seriously, because this is how I
line
see it,
up.
right? If you're about to do something that you know could potentially get the other people that you're with in trouble, there should be some level of honor. If you did something and you get caught and you did not bring the other people into what's going on, you need to man up and you need to take that. Now, if you guys were all acting in unison and then something went down, then yeah, you kind of together. But if I did something, I brought other people into it without actually making them aware that they were a part of it, that is already dishonorable on my part. Now I'm going to expect these people who were not a part of this thing to now take an honorable stance and stick their neck out for you who did something that was very dishonorable. Like I said, I don't consider that snitching. And beyond snitching, you're getting slapped out. Seriously, all jokes aside, you cannot bring people into something and expect them to stand on it for you. That's unacceptable. Friends or not, whether that's the homie or not. You need to, which is kind of why you have to really know who you're like moving with. because I would have to assume anyone that I'm moving with would never pull something like that.
Yeah.
So when you said that, it made me think of this movie called Three Strikes. And the guy in the movie, like the main dude, he was in jail, and his mans came and picked him up out of jail, right?
Mhm.
And he picked him up from jail in a stolen car. And
So
so
he's getting out and he's getting picked up already in crime.
Already
dude's
correct.
like, "Oh man, thanks for picking me up, dude." He's like, "Oh, I got you." Da da da. They riding. Police pull up behind him, right? His man who's driving gets all nervous. He's like, "Yo, what's going on?" He's like, "Bruh, this car is stolen." He's like,
Let me out, man.
"Bro, I'm already on 2 strikes. The third strike, I don't know if people know, but the third strike ain't good when it comes to being in jail, right?
It's a wrap.
Because
Or baseball.
or baseball, because basically you're out, or jail purposes you're in,
Yeah.
whatever. So so here we go with the snitching part, right? So you know what I'm saying, like the police catch him off, of course, right? And he said, "Bro, I don't got nothing to do with that. That was all him." Da 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 da. Right? The neighborhood found out. Look, just listen how crazy people are. They're not mad at the dude picking his homeboy up from jail in a stolen car. They're mad that the guy said it wasn't, he didn't have nothing to do with it. It was all him, and that was he stole the car. The neighborhood, his friends, everybody was like, "Yo, that's messed up. You a snitch."
I don't consider that snitching.
Everybody knows he just got out of jail, but he's the snitch. Come on,
You
bro.
just robbed homie of his only chance.
Yeah.
In that situation, is that snitching?
Well, see the thing, and that's why I feel like the lines are very blurred because I feel like there's a strong thing where it's like you can't talk to like it's like the opposite of the say something. Uh, wait,
If you
see
see
something, say
something,
something,
say
say something.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's like if you see something, say nothing. It's like literally the polar opposite. So if you didn't like, for example, if you see somebody do something in that a clear direction and affects somebody in you, if you say something, you're snitching. And it's weird because that's why I was like, there used to be it felt like at some point there was a code that said, okay, well, if you're part of this life, you know what comes to that life. But if you, as I said, going back to what I said earlier, there are a lot of people who are about that life that they were telling. Because when they start seeing those numbers and you're looking at 20, 30, 40 years, and you 40 years old, that's the rest of your life.
And that, in my definition, is a true snitch because you did something wrong. You did it with the homies, and now you don't want to accept what comes along with the life that you've chosen. So you started singing like a bird, like you said before. However, if I'm in the situation where I'm just a dude walking down the road, a couple of gangbangers come through with the street sweeper and they hit a kid, I'm gonna let the cops know what I saw. Like you can't like because then you start entering this particular area where it's like, do I quote unquote not cooperate with the police in order to uphold this weird, you know, set of rules that I don't abide by, or do I want to see my neighborhood get better? You got dudes recklessly driving through the neighborhood, whoever it is they're looking for, and they ring off a few shots and kill a kid. I don't necessarily know that that's a name. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a kid. It could be an adult, anyone just walking, anyone just hanging out, whatever. Someone gets shot. If I saw who did it and I saw the license plates or something like that, yeah, I'm putting myself in extreme danger. But at the same accord, you kind of have a duty to yourself and your community as well, no? And by not cooperating
Yeah.
with the police, what exactly is the message that you're sending? That it's okay for these people to commit these crimes, and because you're upholding this odd rule where you don't talk to the police about anything, they continue to be able to perpetuate these crimes in the neighborhood? Or do you now go say something and you're still not safe because they're looking for you because you spoke? So exactly where do you fall? It's a weird set of rules, and I think I personally I'm gonna fall on the side of I gotta say something, unless of course it's me being involved in something, which I would
That's
hope
a whole
I'm
nother
not
conversation.
stupid enough
Yeah.
to do something like that. But if I'm involved with something and there are other accomplices along with me, I'm not going to say anything. It's like we're in this together. But then again, they might come in and be like, yo, your man in the other block, he told us everything. So unless you're looking to go down for these homies, we need to know
Yep.
what your side of the
Mm-hmm.
story is because that happens a lot, as we're seeing now with this
Yep.
Gunner case.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess the other thing that I try to figure out there on this topic is like, for example, you go into do you're in the crime world. You are a criminal. I don't know why that was so hard to say, but you literally go in to say you're robbing somebody, right? But it's four people. I don't know why we're going so deep in this analogy, but it's four people. John then kidnapped somebody, right? You know times are hard. You were just trying to rob a bank because we can't use food anywhere with food anymore. You go in to rob a bank, but John decides to kidnap the teller. When you're dealing with that, now your thing went from, you know, just a simple robbery charge to kidnapping, which is pretty much you might as well be throwing your whole life away. Do you then tell or not? Is that still snitching? Even though somebody did something more than what you had agreed. That actually, I think that had happened in The Boys. There's a show called not The Boys. There's a show in Boston with a bunch of people. The Town, I think it was called.
Okay, what
Yeah,
Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck. Yeah,
Okay.
and he kind of had gone way further than they expected. But
But I guess my response to that is that based off movies, because I'm not a criminal.
yeah,
But you are supposed to go into it expecting the unexpected, right? Because I've seen situations where they had, hey, we're gonna plan to rob this certain thing. We're not going to kill anybody, and then that one guy on your team who was already a hothead,
Hmm.
right? So it's kind of like, yo, when we say this, we're really talking to you, but then something happens and he does kill people, and it's like it's kind of justified because if he hadn't did it, they wouldn't have got away. But also, he probably could have took a different route, and we said no killing. And so, in that situation, someone could snitch and be like, "Hey, yeah, we might have robbed or whatever, but I'm saying that you killed that person,"
Hmm.
which
is that not snitching?
that is
That is
snitching.
snitching.
But then somebody else could say, "Well, hey, when y'all made the agreement to go rob this place, even though we said no killing, we still understand there's a risk that something bad could happen. So you probably should shut your mouth." And that's where I'm like, okay, let's discuss this dilemma, which I feel like is kind of where you were going with it. It's like, yo, if something happens that you don't plan, I'm like, well, technically, if you're doing this risky business, of course something could happen that you don't plan.
All right. So
So
now,
before I say what I want to say, Aaron, please, with that scenario,
well, within that scenario, I want to actually ask you about a real world scenario because that is kind of the reasons why 6ix9ine kind of came to the conclusion that he was going to snitch. Because you see how you mentioned we went in there to do one thing, homie did another thing, and as a result, it's like, yeah, this is what the plan was, but he did this. So now clearly, you guys, as a criminal organization, you guys had plans, you guys had rules that you have agreed to abide by. No snitching is one of those rules. Sticking to the plan is another one of those rules. Now, I would assume that the whole no snitching thing is it's almost like a loyalty that we have to each other, right? Is that something
right?
that's safe to say? So now if you
Safe to say.
break one of the loyalties, do you expect me to stay firm and uphold the other loyalties? Because the scenario that you've pointed out, one of the loyalties were broken, so we're in a position as to whether or not we're going to hold the other ground or we're going to, kind of dime on them.
So my thing is, I think that if we're gonna say loyalty or whatever, I think it's more than that, right? Because it's more of a moral compass, I think. Because it's like one of those situations like, hey, if someone's mean to you, do two wrongs make a right, basically. I think that's the same.
Right.
Do two wrongs make a right. So hey, even if this person, and I think this is what the foundation of it is, even if this person is doing certain things that's disloyal to you, you still do not, especially if it's you're all in an organization doing criminal activity and doing bad things, right? You still, even if like that disloyalty needs to be addressed at a different time. That's not where you address it. You don't address it here with the feds and be like, well, you know what? This person slept with my baby mother. So now the rules of the streets is void, right? And I don't know about gang activity, but I think the point of what they were trying to say is it doesn't matter. This is the one thing you do not do because it's a snowball effect that can take down the whole organization, right? And if we want to keep people in place to like even like, hey, we might have did this and did that, but you know what? You stood firm. So we gonna do what we gotta do to keep you good, whether you're in jail or need things on your books or your family. Even though we've had this beef, because you stood to the rule, that might everything else can be forgiven. But once you break that one rule, I think that's where they're like, okay, you did the one thing you're not supposed to do. It doesn't matter what happened.
I
Well,
agree.
to also, I mean, I try not to talk about 6ix9ine because I feel like that that was what you his existence in his scenario was very advantageous. He came into a situation where he didn't need to be anything other than an artist and actively wanted to be a part of the stuff that was going on in the streets. And then when it was time to, face the piper, he sounded like a canary. And so like, and then all the stuff about the baby mother and all that stuff. Yes, but you already knew what you were running with. Like you knew who you were dealing with. So that's why that's not a one I like to talk about. To use another current analogy,
Hold on, real quick. I do want to bring. I know you don't like to talk about it, but I do want to add something to it.
okay,
The one because I keep seeing it where they're trying to. I feel like you're about to go into the gunner part, right? They keep trying to put those two together. And my issue is, you were literally, and I just won't say his name, but we know the 9 to the 6 or whatever. He was
the
literally,
Mexican Donald
he
Trump
was literally, he was literally making calls. He was shot calling.
wanted to be.
Like, well, I mean, he said, "Hey, I'm putting a hit out on this person. Go do that."
Yeah, he was calling shots for sure.
You can't be calling shots and then snitch
Yeah.
Why not?
because okay, if that's what you're doing, you can't compare that to Gunna because Gunna wasn't calling shots. He was put. So what 6ix9ine is doing right now is he's going around on this tour of like, hey, you see him? He did the same thing I
Mhm.
did, bro. No, he didn't do the same thing you did, fam. Stop. I'm tired of that. He didn't do it. He was not out here. One, he wasn't acting like he was a gangster. If anything, Gunna was on some super fabulous type stuff. Like, oh, I'm styling out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm not a punk, but I'm styling out. I'm not. But dog, if you're gonna be like, yo, I'm gangster, yo, I'll smack like talking trash, calling shots, and then when you get in some heat, you snitch.
Yeah, I get
And
it.
that's when I'm like, okay, now I'm okay with labeling the big with that big S. You know how Superman got the S on his chest? That's gonna be snitch for him. I can understand that. Cause it's like, yo, even if dudes did what they did, you was out there you was trying to be the super big boss, talking all this trash to everybody like you about that life, and then you fold.
No, I agree with you on
Me,
100%. Go ahead, Styles. I'll give my
yeah,
input on
I
that.
think, but I think more than anything else, that was part of his persona, and the problem with that is that at a certain point, you can only straddle the lines of the industry and street stuff for too long, right? And then once you end up on the radar, you got a long time before you don't have a long time before they come get
Right.
you. But the case with the gunner thing, I don't know if we know all the specifics. I mean, you guys might know more than I do, but people are going hard and saying Gunner's a snitch, and I don't necessarily know if that's the case here. But I would like to know what your thoughts are. I have another current event follow up too, but this let's touch the gunner part, because I think that's what sparked a lot of this conversation to begin with, because that's what happened most recently.
So, Aaron, real quick, do you know the foundation of why they're saying this about Gunna?
So I don't have all of the
Okay.
information because I haven't delved all the way into it. But basically, when he was given his opportunity to walk, it was because they sat him down and they asked him a series of questions. You know, is YSL a label? Is YSL a gang? You know, all these different questions, and he pretty much said yes to the questions that they were
Yes,
asking.
ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. And he was confirming things that they said that YSL was a part of, which is how they built their entire RICO case. So I think that they're calling him a snitch because of the fact that he was supposed to pretty much like outright deny all of that. Because there's even one other affiliate of the whole YSL movement. When they asked him those very same questions, he said, no, YSL is a label, it's not a gang, you know? So my thing is, if Gunna is giving them I don't know if this information is truthful or not, who knows, but if he's giving them information that could lead to a prosecution of Thug, then yeah, he snitched. Whether or not you want to equate it at the same level of snitching because he wasn't really in the streets doing the work like 6ix9ine was calling to have done. So it's not the same level of snitching. That's up for debate. But if you're giving information to the feds, and in my from my understanding, this one is not federal, it was actually like state. So if you're
Right.
giving
Yeah.
information to the state, that's going to lead to a prosecution, and the prosecution is going to lead to Thug winding up in jail while everybody else gets to slide. You're snitching, bro. You might have a little bit of a cleaner image, you might not be as unlikable as the other character is, you might have a lot more people behind you, your music might be doing better, all of these different things that are positive. But if you're giving information that's going to lead to the prosecution of one person and you get to slide and you are a part of that, you're snitching. There's no other way of being able to define it. A snitch is a snitch,
Was
period.
was he a part of that though?
I mean, he's a part of that organization. Was he a part of what ultimately got them into this position? I don't know. And that goes back to what we were asking earlier. If John has the John has the
This guy.
intention to commit certain crimes or has committed certain crimes or is involved in certain crimes, and he brings me along for something without completely etching out what's going down here, and then I'm now put in the position where I'm facing time for something I have nothing to do with. Maybe you're not a snitch, because what exactly are you snitching on? You're actually saying what you do or don't know, because you weren't even brought in on that. This is information that you were not provided. So we don't know. Do we know if Gunna was a part of the activity that ultimately led to this RICO case, or do we know if he wasn't? And that is really where you're going to get your final answer in regards to that. And I personally don't know. We will probably never know, because it seems to me like Thug is not, he's not talking. He looks like he's probably like maybe one other member and him like holding
Mhm.
true.
So I'm conflicted, right? And this, you know how I usually do two parts? This has like three or four parts. So hear me out. So the first part is people are saying the word on the streets is like, especially when this first came out, that he took a plea deal, right? That was snitching. And I was like, because he took a plea deal. And okay, then next step, a video comes out in the courtroom. And they literally have Gunna and whoever that lady was talking to him asking him the question. Now, mind you, how I've been introduced to this, Gunna hasn't been a part of anything, right? Like, there's no like, as far as the proof that the feds came out with, the only thing they had on Gunna, well, one of the only things was that he was in the car with Thug, and they had some legal items, right? And then maybe something else happened, but it wasn't nothing crazy compared to what they're charging the whole organization with, right? So if I'm going off the fact that one, his music, the way he be talking, he don't be talking like he going crazy. Like Thug be like, yo, take it to trial in his music, right? And so based off of what I'm seeing, okay, Gunn is not doing nothing crazy. The feds only got this one thing where he said he wasn't his stuff. So I mean, I don't think that's snitching. And you know what I'm saying? If I'm in an organization um that might be doing illegal activities, but they're a record label, I'm just here for the music. So I can understand that part, right? I can understand that. And so I'm like, no, he's not snitching if he takes a plea deal because he shouldn't be in this situation in the first place, right? But then when they asked him, and this is where I'm conflicted at, when they asked him, hey, are they a gang?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm like, yo, think that's snitching because according to you and all everything, you ain't even a part of this.
Right.
So how the hell would you know if they're gang?
Right.
Now I know there's more parts to that, but just off on the surface, if I say, hey, my whole thing was like I'm not a part of this, I don't do illegal activities, I don't know nothing, but to get out of the situation,
Mm-hmm.
you say, hey, she asks, she said, yo, do you have knowledge? You say, yup, they're a gang. Do you have knowledge of doing illegal activity? Yup, I have knowledge of that. And my thing is, if you take the plea, is it possible to get the plea and keep the same story? I don't know nothing. This is a record label because that's what they were coming in with. This is a record label. Whatever they were doing, I don't know. I just be with them to do music and go to these events. And so we would have to have a conversation with the lawyers and everything because I'm like, I feel like you should be able to do the plea without having to snitch. And my only definition of the snitching in this situation is that, hey, you said you wasn't a part of this and you don't know nothing about the gang activity, but then to get out of the situation that they put you in, by the way. So that's the thing too. They put you in this situation.
Yeah.
You said they're a gang. So somewhere around there, you're lying. You see what I'm saying? Like you either lying and you did know, which I feel like you probably should take responsibility for that then too. But if you didn't know, why are you saying that they are?
Yeah.
That one is there's definitely a lot of unknowns there. My question is, what if Tug told Gunner like, "Hey man, yeah, tell him whatever you need to do to get out." Because by Gunner being out, if Gunner's out, Gunner could still make money for Thug because he signed to him.
Oh, so you're saying, but I think
We
so.
don't know. We don't know that to be
Well,
a fact.
someone said, and I can't don't quote me because it wasn't like I was really deep into this, but someone said that Thug didn't have anything to do with him taking that plea. Like they didn't know. Because that was one of the things people said. They was like, yo, Thug's probably actually saying, hey, go ahead and do that and get out and make us some money and da da da. But something came out that said that yeah, he ain't had no.
Yeah, I mean, all of that is it's we don't have the inner workings of that case, so all of this is pretty much hearsay. Um, but then to use another current event situation, the Tory and Meg thing. So Meg did not want to snitch on Tory, so she did not give specifics around uh, what was going on in that situation. Is that not literally is she's going against what's better for herself, which in the long run, I mean, they won the case with all the evidence they had, but the fact that she felt uncomfortable even giving the information up isn't that isn't that counterproductive? Is not going against everything that we're saying as far as like the guidelines of snitching, because technically she got shot.
That's not snitching.
So
Huh?
thank you, Aaron.
That's
Say
not
it again,
snitching.
please.
That's not because again, and that's one of the reasons why I'm happy that we started off by kind of defining what we all kind of see it as. Listen, first of all, there was no but then again, I guess it's because everyone kind of holds their own kind of moral value when it comes to this snitching thing because there is the mindset you just don't cooperate, period. But at the same accord, this is a woman that went out to have a good night with her friends. Homie lost his marbles for whatever reason, and then went off the deep end. I don't really see that you're snitching on anything. It's like, listen, there's only two ways a situation like that could be handled, and I'm assuming because she is in the position that she's choosing to go the legal route. Because let's be honest, if she's connected like that, the only other way this could have been handled is nobody talked to the police about anything. When I get better, homies from the streets, we're gonna find him and we're gonna rectify this situation on our own terms, and that's kind of how the gangs handle things. And I don't ever remember her kind of ever speaking like she's from that kind of lifestyle, so I would expect her to go the
Correct.
civil route and do exactly what she did. I don't consider what she did snitching at all.
Well, and I agree. I think one of the biggest things there is that she felt a certain pressure to not say anything. And
From the
I do think
internet.
there's another thing to think. What's that?
I said I feel like a lot of that pressure came from the internet, but continue.
Correct. I think that one of the things that is tough in the situation is that the lines have been blended to the point where we don't necessarily have the parameter to say, okay, well, this is not considered snitching. If you talk to the law in any case, you're snitching. And then I think that it's compounded by the fact that uh, in black culture, police and black people don't have the greatest relationship. I mean, I don't know. I was trying to think of a politically correct way to say it, but um, I don't know how else to say it.
So I want to stay on that point real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I was under the impression that the whole snitching thing came up because of community in the 70s and 80s, right? So basically, as a community, because of all the stuff that was going on against black people, we had to band together to literally fight the government in our own neighborhood, right? We had to stick that. I think that's where the no snitching, no cooperating thing came from because that's where even the gang stuff came from because nobody else was going to take care of the community but the gangs, right? Of the community. There was Black Panthers. There was a reason why that was formed. That's not the case nowadays because nowadays the gangs ain't taking care of the community. They're menacing the community. The community, little kids is getting shot by gang stuff. That's not what they built this off of. They built it off coming together to fight the man. So if you're gonna tell me that, oh, we ain't supposed to snitch because we supposed to stick together in the feds and that, I'm like, where's all that energy when you shooting my children,
Right,
homie?
right. Because the whole
Where's this
gang thing
energy
was
when
a
you break into
protection.
my grandmother's house and take all her stuff, bro?
Mm,
You ain't you playing like on the fence and stuff. You can't tell me don't snitch on you, because, especially if I'm a civilian, because they like this
right,
snitching thing is starting to apply to every black person.
right.
And if you associate with black people, now you're in the bucket too.
Culture,
That's not, huh?
culture, as they like to call
The
it.
culture, the culture, bro. You not gonna feed me that. You ain't gonna feed me that. Like I'm not blind, bro. I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to have your cake and eat it, and I don't like that, bro. I ain't even trying to be fat. I'm trying to get my abs, and you trying to get everybody fat on your BS.
Well, the funny thing about it is, I feel like um, I'm trying to think. I It's such a complicated thing now because I feel like we have such a weird environment when it comes to just everything between the police and, like, let's talk about specifically the black community, that I could understand not wanting to speak to the the the, the cop. And it doesn't necessarily have to do that I'm a part of anything, but I know that, like, for example, your interactions with the cop, which should be easier and should not be as a question of whether or not you're going to get out of it at all. Um, should it kind of crafts how you think about what you're doing on a daily basis, like how you interact with them. So, like, if I see something happen, am I going to be considered a snitch? And then you have to worry about, well, I'm not in that life, but because something happened and now these people are going to think that I am the result. Now they're going to come after me, and now I got to. It's such a convoluted thing. Like, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have any of this, right? Like, people would deal with the situation. If you felt like you deal with it on some vigilante stuff, you go deal with it, but you know that that comes with ramifications. It but right now it feels like you can't even say anything, um, because you're gonna be considered a snitch, and then that's another whole another thing. So either you're going to jail, or if you don't go to jail, you're out of jail, but you're worrying that you're looking over your shoulder all the time.
And I like the fact that you brought up the ramifications. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I don't got time to gather up my homies and some goons to go handle something because I don't want to talk to the police. I don't know where y'all think, like, okay, because you mentioned Aaron that, like, um what's the lady name? Megan Thee Stallion has connections, right? I don't got them damn connections. I don't know what y'all think. Like, everybody just has the ability to call up some thorough people and, like, yo, we gonna do this.
Right.
Like, nah, don't say nothing to the police. We gonna handle it.
But
Bro, we got family, we got jobs, we got podcasting. Bro, I don't got time to be gathering up. I'm gonna be like, yo, I got somebody. Let me say that. I got somebody who's supposed to serve me. And if you supposed to serve me, I'm putting you to work. Go investigate
exactly.
that stuff, bro.
The
Exactly.
problem is that in the history of police and in minority communities, don't get a fair shake at stuff. So then you end up in a space where they're supposed to be looking after you, but you don't get any repercussions. You don't get any. You literally. It's like the jokes with Dave Chappelle is like, yeah, I don't call the cops when something happens, because they come in and, like, they'll assume that the person who broke in is still here. And
Right.
I was like, we've made it comedy, but it's literally it's to that extent. I'm like, yeah, I'm a citizen, and I'm to your point. I'm not going out there and, you know calling a bunch of people, also jeopardizing their life for something.
Thank
But
you.
if push comes to shove, I'm gonna deal with it myself,
And that's
because, like,
that's the truth.
who am I gonna go to?
No, no,
Like,
no,
who am
that's
I
the
gonna go
truth.
to?
100%. I actually
So
was in a situation, and I might have mentioned this to Styles before. You know, all of this happened, whew, it's got to be like almost 20 years ago. So it's like way
Wonderful. Let me
gone
put that
now.
time
But
out there so they know.
there was a dude that said him and his homie were going to come to where I lived at the time in Jamaica, Queens. He said he was going to come to Queens. Him and his homie, they got a gun. You know, they're gonna get that work done. And my first reaction was, I do know some people who I could have, stand with me. This dude shows up is going to be a problem, or maybe I should just like find out if I should do this the right way and just give the police a call. So I gave them a call. And this is where what Styles is saying comes into play. I called them and they couldn't give two F's, bro. They did not care.
Mm,
So I fell back to that other side where it's like, all right, so then I'm going to have to handle this myself. And I know people who would be more than willing to come through and stand with me. But then my mindset was, these guys are involved in a lot of stuff that is not really on the up and up. So something goes down, I'm putting other people's lives in jeopardy.
yeah,
And I don't necessarily know that I want that on my back. So the way that I handled it was, I told homie, you and your boy come through. I will be outside waiting for you. You can't miss me because you got my address, and we'll do this. He never showed up, but that was literally where it came to. So sometimes you're put in those positions where, hey, you know what? you kind of have to just handle it yourself. But guarantee you, if anything went wrong, those dudes were definitely going to be snitching, even though they were the ones that were like trying to bring problems or whatever. So
Yeah.
sometimes you're just put in that circumstance, I guess.
And I think as an adult, I was gonna say as a man, but no, as an adult, you have to make a decision best for you and the people around you. Sometimes you're gonna be put into situations where, like that example with Aaron, where it's like, well, I gotta figure out what I gotta do best because like even the people who I should be calling for support, they're not there, and I guarantee you, it's gone a different direction. And Aaron popped off and did something, they would be right there to investigate.
Of course.
But you called early to prevent it.
Right.
No one showed up. Now, granted, the argument is like, oh, well, they have a lot of work to do,
Of
blah blah blah,
course.
all of that stuff. I get it, but at the same time, who's supposed to actually protect and serve if that's your job and you don't do it? So, I can understand the idea of no snitching. My concern really does come down to the point where it's like we've adopted it for everything, and I don't think that's the appropriate way to do things.
Nor should it apply to everyone.
Correct.
And so just because I wanted to say something to what Aaron was speaking on, I, I do think there is a middle ground, right? Like that scenario you gave lets me think like, hey, you still need to make sure you have your protection,
Right.
like especially as a grown up, an adult, and you have like family and people that's in your house and stuff
Right.
like
Right.
that. You know what I'm saying? I do think it's important to have some level of protection where you don't have to rely on the people who's supposed to serve you
Right.
to save you. But I also, in that same sentence, don't think you should take your protection and go find the trouble.
Right. But
You know
if
what I'm
it
saying? The
comes and
fuck, yeah.
finds you,
What's the Styles? What's the 50 Cent quote?
Oh, it's like I I don't look for problems, but people think that I like problems, but I don't like problems. But when you bring me problems, I say no problem. And it's one of the craziest things he said, and I agree with that. It's like I don't go out there looking for any issues, but if you bring me a problem, I'm fine with dealing whatever happens.
yeah, I
Right. So
solve problems.
so to go back to your situation that you was in, I'm like, yeah, you did the right thing with like that wasn't your first thing. Like, hey, I'm just going to solve the problem myself, right?
Right.
You went to the proper channels that didn't work out, and you were ready to defend yourself. But you also didn't say no, 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 no. You stay right where you are. I'm gonna come to you
Nah, you're
because
coming.
dudes do that
Yeah.
because they be like, no, oh, I'm tougher than you. No, I'll go to where you at. And then now it's like any defense you had, you knew there was a problem and you sought out the problem, right? And I'm like, that's where I'm like, there's a conflict right there. You know what I mean? Like protect protect your area, or if you're out and about, protect the people you're with. If that comes to you, be ready. I guess is what I'm saying. Be ready, but don't go out of your way to get you and your other people hurt.
I will say though,
I,
if I didn't have people behind me, like family and all of that, I would definitely be the one bringing it. The minute that you make it sound like you are about that action, I'm not sitting back and waiting for you to come and throw the first punch. I'm coming to your door
Mm.
and I'm throwing the first punch because just to even speak like that, I'm ready to go. But there are people that I have to think about before I think about my emotional self. So I would definitely not take that action.
So it's interesting you would say that. I love that we're like having different views because growing up, I wanted you to throw the first punch because after that, everything else I do to you
it's your
is
fault.
justified. I can't just because they usually ask you that. Hey, who started it?
Just give me a reason.
And I'm like, yo, I never want to be the one to start it, but I would love to be the one to finish it, right? And so I'm like, I got trained on that. Like, yeah, be cool, be calm, da 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 da. But then once the action happens, and that's where I'm like, yo, I might get in trouble for that down the line. Cause I might be like, okay, that justifies like breaking an arm, right? And I'm like, and I'm like, I looked it up. You can't get in trouble if you use excessive force. But I'm like, yo, if it's 3 or 4 guys, I don't think just punching the dude is
Right.
gonna do it. You gotta incapacitate people. I know it sounds crazy, right?
No, but
'Cause
it's
you have to
true.
think like people jump. I don't know about your culture, but people jump out here. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, if I'm gonna be safe, I have to understand a way to get out of the jumping. I don't know any other way besides like at least you have the piece on you, right? Or you gotta Jack Reacher them dudes. Hey, my man, he like, yo, one of y'all gonna run.
Nah, if it's you versus multiple, all rules are off the table, man. Go WWE, garbage cans, chairs, it don't matter.
You have
It's
to,
you
right?
versus
The only way you gonna
multiple.
survive,
You're
yo.
gonna sit there and just
Only way
shoot
you
a
gonna
fair one
survive.
with 4 people? It's not a fair one.
I now I haven't tested this theory out, but my thing that I've actually had one situation where that kind of came up was like, are you sure this is what you want to do?
Mm.
I'm gonna give you the opportunity to think about it, because I'm like, if you whatever happens after that, I'm gonna tell the cops that too. I'm like, yo, I didn't want any problems, but he wanted problems, so I said no problem. Like literally,
This guy's the
I'm
equalizer.
not. I literally, I'm not out here looking for no problems. But if you like, I remember there was a point where I was actually slightly worried when I used to take the metro out here in DMV, and I'm like, the kids are a little bit, they're not like we were when we were younger. I feel like I know I sound like an old man, but like I remember running the streets in New York, and there was like you could do a lot of crazy stuff, but you don't do stuff to adults.
Right.
Other kids, da 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 da. I've had a couple times where I had to say a couple things to the kids and like, hey, are you sure this is what you want to do right now? And it's worked. And my goal is I want to deflate the situation. I don't want to go to the point where we have to do anything crazy.
Right.
But I also say no problems. I don't have like it's whatever you want to do. I'm gonna do. But the thing that I think there's a larger thing that we have to talk about as far as like I'm gonna talk about black men specifically because I think that it is something that we have let go on for too long, unchecked for too long. You shouldn't be able to look at somebody in the street and somebody say, "Oh, what you looking at me?" and then jump into a big fight.
Emotional.
I got into it because of that, man. I got into it
We shouldn't be doing that anymore.
when I was younger, yo.
Or
Yeah.
somebody stepping
there-
on someone's sneakers.
Yeah, like all of these things, it's like we need to do better. We have to do better. There has to be a place in this world where we do not get considered as these savages that everybody thinks we are.
That's a whole other topic, and I feel like there
I
is
know,
a space to discuss that because there are a lot of macro and microaggressions that I've noticed that exists almost exclusively in men. I wouldn't even say black men, where you look at someone the wrong way, you look at someone's girl, you step on someone's shoes, and they're ready to kill. So, yeah,
Which is it's crazy because you're losing your freedom. You're losing, the girl in the scenario you're trying to protect. You're not
you're going to
around
be
to
in
be,
jail,
to
and
be with her.
somebody
You're
else is
gonna
going to be putting in that work.
So one of the things I've picked up over the years, and I think this was like just being around people. But now I analyze it and be like, it has made it easier to interact with men, right? Because, for example, because you used to throw a lot of parties, just go a lot of parties, right? One of the things you got to do is like when you go into the party, you got to analyze the men there. Let's be honest, right? You got to see the ratio of women to guys because we don't want to sausage that. First priority.
Right. Right.
Second priority is once you confirm the ratio, you got to confirm like what's the vibe, right?
Mhm.
And one of the things that I've done is that when I enter places, I speak, right? Even if it's just a hello, because one of the things that men do is if you come into their group and you don't speak to the men that's originally in the group, there could be problems. So you go into the group and you say hello to everybody. Hey, my name's MVP. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Da 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 da. You've already gave yourself more grace because they haven't got a chance to know you or anything yet. But I've noticed dudes, and I don't like it when they do it in my group because like I used to hang out with quite a few women, right? And they would bring guys into the group, right? And I'm like, the guys that came into the group and didn't say nothing to me, I already had like,
What's
is
his
this dude?
deal? Yeah.
Especially when you come to my house too,
Oh,
and you don't
no.
really say nothing to me.
Gotta
I'm like,
acknowledge.
but And I'm like, the guys that I notice don't do that, it's already like, are you a asshole? Or you don't have no manners, or you think you just don't have to speak. So one of the things my parents have taught me is to speak when you enter a room, right? Another thing, and that's we can get to that. But the other part I had was like when you're walking down the street, to go back to what you were saying, the head nod. The head nod can save you some issues because in my it's weird because nobody taught me this, but I kind of learned people's like the way they move and interact. So when you're walking down the street in a usually it's with black guys, so I don't know what to say. But the nod is like, hey, I'm cool. You nod back. Oh, he's cool, and we keep it moving. Now, when the nod don't happen, I think people can be like, especially as you're getting closer, you already in your heart start to feel like I need to maybe tense up, maybe put the shoulders back, put the chest out, and be ready for this person. But when I see the nod, I'm like, okay, nod.
You know,
So right.
it's interesting. I, and I say that it's interesting because I feel like growing up in New York changed the way I interact with people because I don't necessarily want anybody to talk to me. Don't talk to me. Don't interact with me because I mean I know like even like crazy and I didn't live in New York in the 90s, but I've heard stories of like people like, yo, what time is it? And you tell them the time and then that's initiation for them to do some crazy stuff. And I'm like, so as a result, I'm always like, yo, nah, I'm not, I'm not, don't talk to me, right? Don't just leave me alone. Which is weird because I think that's the general persona I have. But then people think that I'm very approachable. But I just let them know, like, don't try that. So the going back to the like talking when you go into the room thing. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, I remember, well, this would have been 2019 when I came up to New York and I went to like hang out with Aaron's friends and we went to that wine thing and I remember speaking to everybody. It wasn't like a natural like, hey, how you doing? I talked to hello to everybody, but it was like I was introduced to the main people, said hello, so you start talking and then conversations happen and then you're talking. So it wasn't I went around and introduced myself so everybody feel comfortable with me.
It's a
So
That's weird, right? You don't do it like that. You do it as vicinity type of thing. Like as people get into the vicinity of you, like I don't like the one thing I hate is when someone's standing next to me and they're just standing, and I'm in a group talking with people. I'll be the one to be like, "Hey, what's up, man?" You don't just stand like, and it might not even be my friend. It might be somebody else's friend, and I'm like, "You need to introduce this person, or we need to figure out why you so close to the group right now."
mm,
It doesn't. So it's not like you go and say, "Hey, hey, everybody." But as soon as people start being in the area, and they're getting a little bit closer to your bubble. Hey, what's up? How you doing? MVP. Cool. Just so you know, I'm not just gonna let you just stand there. And I think it's rude, right? Like that, like you don't invite that, like dismiss them or invite them in, but they not gonna just be loitering around my group. It's weird, bro. I don't like it. Like
my natural thing is to dismiss, bro.
dismiss.
But yeah. I don't,
We all walk
that's-
away. Something.
the thing for me is that it's a hard. I mean, Aaron, hold me accountable, but like I don't talk to people like that.
No, you don't. You don't.
I'm just like but think about it. Everybody that you bring me a group in, everybody's cool with me. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily like, hey, what's up? Which I know this sounds like counter to what I was saying earlier about like us being better as black men. But at the same time, I just don't necessarily feel like I need to talk to everybody. And it's weird because like everybody else around me is like that. Like, Aaron will talk to everybody. I remember Aaron, this man was a wild dude back in the day. He just talk to anybody. I'm just like, and this guy, he does it. Like, we go out to bars, same thing. My significant other, she'll talk to everybody. And I'm just sitting there like, all right, cool. I ain't talking to anybody. I mean, if I need to, I'm not like I'm afraid or I have an issue talking to anybody. I just don't feel
No,
like
I
that's
get
my
it.
natural go-to.
Well, Aaron, I feel like if you're gonna be a thorough group, you have to have people who have different roles.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So if you're gonna be that guy, at least you have like an Aaron or someone else who like can balance out. Because I sound crazy, but when I say when we move as a group, we need to move as a unit. I think I said this before. Yo, if we making it right, we need to discuss we making that right. Because I don't want us spreading and looking confused to the outside people. Because whoever I'm with, it's us against everybody.
That's a good point. But I think about it. I think about it too. Like like Live from In Crowd as well. He's at the same time like me. We literally don't talk to people. Like he will like in the situation where like we're in a networking meeting or whatever. You go meet. That's different. But just like randomly like. And that used to kill me when I'm out. Like when I used to go out all the time, people would just find a way to come talk to me. And it could be what you were talking about, like the like, oh well, this dude looks like he's unapproachable. If I can talk to this guy, then everybody else. That's some like jailhouse shit. I'm not in jail.
That might be a thing. That might be a thing. Cause it's like, yo, the biggest person in this room. Let me go make sure he cool. Like, or for me, what I do is if I know I'm going to someone's house or whatever, one, I bring beer or alcohol.
Gotta break the ice.
Right? Like I know we're going a little bit off of the subject, but I think it's important for grown men to understand how other grown men think, right? And I'm like, women probably can get away with going to people's houses without bringing anything, right? But as a man, especially if you're going to another man's house and it's a party or something, you just show up.
Yeah.
You better either be bringing some women with you, like that are friends, or like you bring value, or bring some beer, some food, a napkin, some fork. You better bring something, right? And then,
I feel like I'm wrong. The situation that we went with like Aaron's friends, I didn't bring shit.
That might be a you and Aaron relationship type thing.
Well,
but I'm saying yo, you
that
go
was different, though.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like y'all cool.
Plus, we were going to the
Going to
winery,
a
so
winery.
So there was an understanding.
There was nothing to bring. Yeah, there's nothing to bring.
Correct. Plus, on top of that, there was a fee that everyone had to pay to get on the bus. I had already covered that. So that was a scenario in which you don't really need to bring anything but yourself and the energy. That's it.
So the key thing is that when you're going to somebody's house and you're not going to wine,
it's a matter of respect.
It's important. Yeah, it's important to know your situation.
I mean, old kings and like kingdoms used to do this. It's like bringing and I don't think it's no punk stuff. It's just like, yo, here's an offering. And I know it sounds crazy, but I kind of just started doing it, and then I'm like, well, it always turned out good because if some stuff went down, we already know MVP's cool.
Exactly.
Get your man. You got to go by association. I'm telling you, I'm like, yo, I should have been punished a couple times with like some of my homies doing some wild stuff. But they was like, you know what? Your boy cool. Just go on, get on out of here. And don't come back. And I'm like, yo, Grace. Especially when I'm telling you, bro, when it's mad guys, and it's just you and a couple dudes and women, because I told you I used to travel with a lot of women, only had like 1 or 2 dudes with me. If one of them dudes do something crazy, you got a whole group of guys that are not gonna wait to put their hands and feet on you.
You know what's funny?
What? It's real stuff. I'm telling y'all, it's real stuff, man.
I feel like I've had a different experience. I literally stuff just doesn't happen when I'm there. Stuff just does not happen. Like, I remember being out with friends, and the next time they're like, "Oh, we went out to the same place and got into a fight." And I'm like, "Why did this happen when I'm there?" I think like God be protecting me from stuff, because sometimes I think I'll go too ham. I can think of the one situation where we almost got into something, and honestly, it just also didn't happen.
It's true.
It was escalating, and then I was like, "Yo, what's happening here?" And it stopped. So,
but I also think we're gonna go deep into that conversation, but I also think that we both have a level. I'm telling you, it's a level of understanding of how to maneuver with people. Like, because even though that situation happened, neither one of us got big, right? Like, got like boisterous and like, I don't care. I'll do something to everybody in here. I don't care who it is. There's guys out here who don't like pay attention to the environment. They can be. We don't even say guys. We say women, guys, like people in general don't pay attention to the environment. And I say, yo, it's nothing wrong with calming down your pride when you're outnumbered, and I believe it like that.
I think the question, each situation needs its own evaluation. Is this something that is this the hill you want to die on? Literally,
Literally.
then that's a thing. Which brings it all back to snitching.
Correct.
Are you willing to do that time for something you didn't do?
Not for something
Are
I
you
didn't
willing
do.
to live? And you know what I'm saying? Like, and I think those things should be thought about beforehand.
Right.
You know, they
Right.
always said, "Don't do the time if you can't. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time."
But you doing the crime and you doing the time and you ain't do the crime?
That's
Uh,
the question.
Right.
Sorry, John.
No, no, I agree. I
You're going
agree.
under the
I
jail.
mean, I guess my final words on the whole snitching thing is it really depends on the scenario and your own moral codes. But snitching really is for me a behavior that you don't get involved in when you are a part of what's going on in order to exonerate yourself and just let your other people take the rap. That's for me.
One more thing though,
Uh-huh.
and this is going y'all gonna be like, oh man,
Uh-oh.
how many people have siblings or people you grew up with in the same house?
I grew up in the same house and I grew up with cousins and stuff like that. So, it was like
Yeah,
a
me,
lot
cousins,
going
and
on.
everything else.
Hey, snitching amongst the siblings? I don't know, man. I mean, we might have to save that for another podcast. But I'm saying, bro,
And to
like
just
there
jump
has to
onto
be.
that, I never told. If I had a problem with a sibling, if I had a problem with a cousin, we fought it out. We never brought the parents
Y'all
into
never
it.
told?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're doing my friends. If my friends and I did wrong, like bro, that and this
You
didn't
don't.
come from any no snitching moral nothing. It was just this is what I'm a part of. This is the problem. We're gonna fix that problem. And if it meant that hands were gonna get involved, it didn't matter. I never went and told anybody's parents anything. I never told my parents anything. I came home with
Yo,
bruises. There was one time I got into a fight, my wrist was almost broken. I didn't want to tell my grandmother a thing as to what happened, even though I was in the right. She just took me, got it all wrapped up and well and good. And dude said, "Yo, we could do this again," and that's exactly how I felt about it. We could do this again. I was never in that. I feel like, and that value is still with me today. If I have problems, I'm gonna figure out every which way that I can handle that problem myself without bringing other parties into it. This is between you and me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one situation where like someone had taken my bike. It wasn't a family member; it was somebody external,
okay.
and I mentioned it to my uncle, and he went and got it for me. So I was like,
See
maybe that
But
that's
how
that's
I grew
not.
up. How I grew up. You took my bike. I was not because my father was a different person. And if I went and told my father, he was going to end up getting killed or he was going to end up killing somebody. And I think that's probably where that mindset came from for me because I always felt like I don't want to bring anyone else into the situation and potentially get them hurt because then that's sitting on my back. So I'm going there. And that's how it used to happen.
I'm glad y'all said that because as we was preparing for this episode, I was like, have I ever told on any of my siblings? And I'm like, me and my older brother used to get into it, right? Obviously he's older. So I'd be crying and mad at him and stuff. And then parents be like, yo, what y'all doing? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. I'm like, yo, you keep playing with me, bro. I know I can't beat you yet, but yo, you stop playing with me, right? And he would just keep playing because he was like a jokester type dude. And I'm like, I never told though. And it wasn't like you said, Aaron, it wasn't like a it was not instilled in me. But I did think now that I think about it, I did think like, hey, if I do tell,
You're going to get him in trouble.
like when we get in trouble, we get in trouble.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm like, I mean, I ain't trying to get you in trouble.
Right. Right.
So you know what? We just gonna have to be beefing in the crib for a little bit. But I don't want because when you get in trouble, you be feeling bad for yourself. Like, dang, bro. It's like when they do something wrong on their own. He be like, "Dang, bro.
And I
I
feel
hope you
like
make
that
it."
that speaks to your character. You know what I mean? That speaks to your character because you get these people that they gotta go tell everything. Like you might have a lady in your life that you might not be doing the most right things with. There are dudes that'll go tell her or tell her friends so that they could go tell her. And it's just like you're a gossipy male, man. Shut up. You know what I mean? So it says a lot about character too when every situation that you're involved in that may potentially become problematic, you have to go tell somebody or something like that rather than and I don't know, it's just that's just how it is. Even in things like work, I have problems that I have in front of me in terms of actual work. I could probably run to someone else to find a solution as quickly as possible, but a lot of times I sit there and I dig into it to try to figure it out myself. That's just that's just how I'm ingrained, and it's probably not the best thing to do, but
Yeah, it creates a little bit of problems. I know that like the work one is funny because um not to get too deep, but like we've had change in management over the last couple of years, and the new guy is always like, yeah, let me know if you need anything. If you need to talk to, if I need to talk to somebody on your behalf, let me know. And I'm like,
mm,
nah, bro, I've been at this company for mad long, bro. I, they know me well,
yeah,
and they know not to mess with me.
mm,
So like, it's just really funny.
yeah,
But um, yeah, man, I think that at the core of this thing, that we really have to be very clear what the the parameters are for snitching and be realistic around what that looks like, right?
right,
And what the expectations are. You can't have expectations from people to uphold your thing if they're not a part of your life. And if you are part of that life and you're not upholding the unwritten rules, then I pray for you. That's all. Like whatever happens, happens, bro. But like we need to be very clear. But on
100%.
that note, I think
And I was
yeah,
gonna
but
say, if you are the wrongdoer, don't expect other people to stand on it for you. Get your act together. Especially if you're putting other people in a situation where they could potentially get in a lot of trouble or they might potentially have to snitch to get themselves out of the situation. Stand on it and speak up and say, you know what, homie over there, he got nothing to do with this. I did that. I'm writing on this because this is what I chose to do.
yes,
Speaks to
sir.
character.
So
Yeah.
on that note, I want to say thank you to everybody that made it all the way to the end of this. This is a long conversation. I think we went all around the world on that one. Um, Hopefully this helped you get a better understanding of what to do in situations that hopefully you didn't put yourself into. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to In Crowd. This is another episode of Juxtaposed. We'll see y'all not too far from now. Deuces.
Yes, sir. Peace.